With the second half of the 1.3 update for Wuthering Waves, GN's banner is back, but the main thing I wanted to focus on is the new 4-star character Youhu and how to gamble with her. So if you want to know what weapons to use, best echo sets, and what skills to prioritize, here's everything you're going to need to know. First off, there are only 2 ways to get her at the moment. The first way is pulling on GN's banner because she is one of the 4-star resonators that has a higher drop chance. Or if you go in the store and under item exchange in Afterglow Coral, you can actually spend 80 of your Afterglow Coral to get your first copy. You don't have to have a copy of her beforehand to get this one, which is kind of nice. Once GN's banner is gone, Youhu will be in the permanent pool with all the other 4-star resonators, so if you don't get her this time, you still have a chance to get her in the future. Her combat roles are pretty interesting, so we have the support and healer role on top of higher resonance skill damage, plus the vibration strength reduction on targets, and her outro gives coordinated attack damage amplification. Personally for me, I'm not going to pull for her. I really don't need another healer on my team. I do have S2 Shorekeeper on top of Rena and S6 Baija as well. Plus my GN is S2, so I don't really need any more copies of him at the moment. I need to save everything that I can for Camellia. If you did want to pull for her, her strengths do include having different types of utility, such as crowd control, healing, and that vibration strength reduction. Plus you can heal while doing damage at the same time when she's on the field and having access to her resonance skill giving heal on demand. Now her weaknesses do include having utility RNG. I will be talking about the skills more in depth later in the video, but essentially you get to go gambling and you get what you get with her skills. And she performs best when you focus on the healing portion instead of her damage portion, because even if you did focus on dealing damage with her, it's not going to be as high as some other dedicated sub DPS characters. Now if you want to get her up to max level, here are all the materials you're going to need. For weapons, Youhu uses the gauntlets, and one of the best options is going to be the standard 5-star gauntlets, the Abyss Surges. You'll get a flat attack and an attack percentage bump, plus with this perk Storm Resolution, you get an energy regen bump, plus a lot of the skills revolve around using the resonance skill and the basic attack, which Youhu is going to be doing a lot of. If you don't have those gauntlets, don't worry, there are a couple of 4-star gauntlets you can use. The first one being Celestial Spire. Again, these are part of the new 4-star weapon series that came with the 1.3 update. You get a flat attack and attack percentage bump, plus when you use the resonance skill, you'll get resonance energy and you get a percentage attack increase. You can also use Hollow Mirage, which is going to give you a flat attack and attack percentage bump, and when you use the Resonance Liberation, you'll gain Iron Armor, which increases your attack and defense. Or you could use the Mercado, which is going to give you flat attack and an energy regen percentage bump, and when you use the resonance skill, you'll gain a lot more Concerto energy. For Youhu's best echo set, you're going to want 5-piece Rejuvenating Glow for the increased healing and the increase to attack of all party members when you heal them. For your 4-cost echo, you're either going to want to use the Fallacy No Return or the Bellborn, as long as it has the healing bonus as the main stat. Since her healing output by itself isn't that great, having that increased healing is just going to help your team's survivability. For your 3-cost echoes, you can either go with Glacio Damage, attack percentage, or for one of them, you could do energy regen. Now the reason I say that is because with Glacio Damage, you will increase her damage. With attack percentage, it does provide a slight increase to your healing output. And with Youhu's ultimate having a cooldown of 25 seconds and only requiring 100 resonance energy, you don't necessarily need energy regen to use it. And then for your 2 1-cost echoes, just go with attack percentage. For your echo substats, attack percentage is going to be at the top here. Then you can either do energy regen or potentially resonance skill damage. I've also seen flat attack and then also crit rate and crit damage. For what skills to prioritize upgrading first, it's kind of a tie between her Forte Circuit and Resonance skill. Next, I would do Resonance Liberation, and then tie for last, its Intro skill and normal attack. And here are all the materials you're going to need to upgrade these skills. A lot of Youhu's kit revolves around Lucky Draw and Antique Appraisal to get one of 4 different antiques. The Chime deals Glacio damage and reduces the enemy's vibration strength. With the Rui, you'll deal Glacio damage and have a higher damage multiplier. With the Ding, you'll ram into targets dealing Glacio damage and can effectively break the enemy's stance. And with the Mask, it'll deal Glacio damage and also pull enemies in, having that traction effect. There are a few different ways to get these antiques, including using the Resonance skill Scroll Divination, the Intro skill Scroll of Wonders, Heavy Attack Frostfall, Resonance Liberation, Fortune's Favor, and also a dodge counter. Now under the normal attack, the main thing to note is that if you just use the 4 basic attacks to hit a target, it will charge the Forte Circuit to eventually perform a Lucky Draw, or if you hold down your basic attack to use the heavy attack, it'll automatically charge the Forte Circuit, and then you'll perform Heavy Attack Frostfall, you'll deal Glacio damage, and you'll also perform a Lucky Draw for one of those antiques. Now the reason the Resonance skill is important not only for dealing the Glacio damage and performing a Lucky Draw, but the skill will also restore HP. For your intro skill, you will deal damage and perform a Lucky Draw, giving you a random antique. Now, the reason the Resonance Liberation is important is because not only will you deal with Glacio damage to the targets when you throw it out, you can also choose which antique that you want during the blast. Now, if you don't choose one within the time limit, it will just give you a random antique. And all that leads back into the Forte circuit. So once you have 4 antiques, you can hold down your normal attack to perform Poetic Essence. It'll deal glacial damage, which is considered resonant skill damage, and also restore HP for your party members. Also, with Poetic Essence, it actually has different effects depending on what combination of antiques you have. So if you have one of each antique, you'll perform Free Verse, which additionally reduces the vibration strength of enemies. If you have a pair of antiques, you'll perform Antithesis, which increases Poetic Essence's damage by 70%. If you have a 2 pair, you'll perform Double Pun, which additionally restores HP for all of your teammates. If you have 3 identical antiques, you'll perform Triplet, which increases Poetic Essence's damage by 175%. And if you get 4 identical antiques, you'll perform Perfect Rhyme, which does the effects of Free Verse, Double Pun, and Triplet all at once. Now, once you perform Poetic Essence, it actually resets your antiques, so now you have to collect 4 more. Another thing to mention is that if there's an antique that pops up under your basic attack that you don't want, you can use one of the various skills to actually just switch it out if you're trying to perform a certain skill under Poetic Essence. For her outro skill, like I mentioned, you do get an increase to your coordinated attack damage, and it is by 100% for 28 seconds. That is a huge bump in that damage. Now for the left and right columns, you'll have a crit rate and attack percentage increase that you can do, but I want to talk about the inherent skills. The first one is Treasured Peace, so restore HP for all party members based on 30% of the healing provided by Resonant Skill Scroll Divination when Resonant Skill Antique Appraisal is cast. And then with Rare Find, you get a 15% Glacio damage bonus for 14 seconds upon casting your intro skill. I'm not sure how I feel about a character skills be focused around gambling considering the randomness of how the skills will perform. But what I will say is that the outro skill damage is insane. Some of the damage bonuses are kind of nuts too. And if you can get the right antiques, you can definitely do some major damage. Now let's talk about Yuhu's Resonance Chain. At S1, we have Waterside Respite. Yuhu has a 10% chance to gain immunity to damage and interruption after casting a Lucky Draw. The effect will last for 5 seconds or until she is switched out. For her S2, Sunroom Siesta, the damage bonus of Antithesis, Triplet, and Perfect Rhyme under Poetic Essence is doubled. At S3, we have Restless Sleep, which gives Yuhu's attack an increase of 20%. At S4, Frosted Lullaby, every time her Resonant skill is cast, there's a 20% chance that the school will not enter cooldown, which means you can use it back to back, have 2 lucky draws, and also get more healing. For S5, Dreamland Meander, when intro skill is cast, Yuhu's crit rate is increased by 15% for 14 seconds. And at S6, Slumber Evermore, when casting the Resonant skill, you gain 1 stack of Sky Blue, stacking up to 4 times, lasting for 7 seconds. Each stack increases Yuhu's crit damage by 15%. It seems like if you're only going for 1 copy of Yuhu, you have a better chance of focusing on the healing aspects of her kit, but if you decide to go for S5 or up to S6, you could focus on some damage, and that's why she does have the potential to be a sub DPS unit. For Yuhu's best team options, one of the best coordinated attack teams is going to be pairing up Jinshi as your main DPS with Zezha as your sub DPS and Yuhu as your support. Being able to use her outro skill to amplify Zezha's coordinated attack damage on top of providing the heals and attack buffs is just going to be good across the board. If you wanted strictly a Glacio team for DPS, you could pair up Zezha and Sanhua as your main DPS and then Yuhu as your support. Zezha can buff Sanhua's Glacio damage while Sanhua buffs Zezha's basic attack damage, and then Yuhu can buff Zezha's coordinated attacks on top of the healing. For an Electro team, you could use Zhang Liao as your main DPS and then Yinlin as your sub DPS. Yuhu being able to buff Yinlin's coordinated attack damage and then Yinlin being able to buff Zhang Liao's electric and resonance liberation damage. Or you can even make a team with GN as your main DPS and then Mortefi as your sub DPS. Yuhu giving the buffs to Mortefi for the coordinated attacks and then Mortefi giving the heavy attack deepen to GN. You do have multiple team options. The only problem is that if you use her on characters that don't have the coordinated attack, you basically miss out on the free damage bump on the outro skill. All in all, do I think you should pull for Yuhu? Unless you don't have Arena or Shorekeeper or even potentially Baija, you could try to get Yuhu as your healer and support unit. Or maybe you're just someone who likes the concept of gambling on a character. It is honestly pretty fun to use her kit. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my Yuhu build guide. Let me know in the comments if you decided to pull for her. For me personally, I gotta save my ass right in all my pulls for 1.4 when Camellia comes out, and when we get the Yinlin rerun as well. I'm gonna be so broke when they come out. And if there's something that you like using that I didn't mention in the video, definitely let me know down below. In any event, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on any other Wuthering Waves content we have coming out here on the channel. If you want to catch any live streams, we go live here on the channel and also over on Twitch. That link will be in the description. And if you want to join my Discord, we have people talking about Wuthering Waves on top of other games, plus PC tech anime, and more. Lastly, if you want to help support the channel even more, you can look into becoming a member. If you don't know what a membership is, it's essentially like a Twitch subscription where you're going to get access to exclusive emotes, monthly badges, and other cool things, including access to all of my long-form videos early. So if you would like more information, all you have to do is press the join button, next subscribe, and it'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next video.